Shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. Most High in Christ bless. Hey, can you see and hear me clearly? Can you see and hear me clearly? All right, it's like 4:35 Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna get started. We'll read the disclaimer. Hey, do we have a brother, a soldier that can scribe for us today? We're going Second Chronicles chapters 1 through 4. Second Chronicles, as we are making our way through the Bible, 4 chapters a day. All right. Second Chronicles chapter chapters 1 through 4. Um, if you haven't noticed, the last few chapters that we've read over the last few days, we're in a part of the Bible where we're repeating read earlier. We Chronicles, depending on what part of it is repeating um, or giving them just a different part of the history. Sometimes in more detail than the Kings. Sometimes Samuel. Okay, the Book of Samuel. So um, right now we are going into Second Chronicles 1 through 4, and this we're gonna be if you want to match it up, you go back and you read like First Kings chapter 3 through 7, okay, and we'll go into some precepts to show you, but most of it is pretty straightforward right now. All right, so let me read the disclaimer. All right. Okay, we are not a hate group. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. Israel United in Christ is a nonviolent, Bible based movement. We do not advocate or condone any acts of violence against any race, ethnicity, or gender. We advise that if anyone hears or knows of any plots to cause harm to anyone or to break the laws of the land, you must contact the proper authorities to bring awareness to any possible threat as stated in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, again, we're going into Second Chronicles chapters 1 through 4. All right, so if we got a scribe, I'm gonna pick up the reading. Second Chronicles chapter 1, verse 1. And Solomon, the son of David, was strengthened in his kingdom, and the Lord his God was with him, and magnified him exceedingly. Then Solomon spake unto all Israel, to the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and to the judges, and to every governor in all Israel, the chief of the fathers. So Solomon and all the congregation with him went to the high place that was in Gibeon, for there was the tabernacle of the congregation of God, which Moses the servant of the Lord had made in the wilderness. But the ark of God had David brought up from Kirjathriim to the place which David had prepared for it, for he pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem. Now this is when you go back, verse 4. You go back and read that history in 2 Samuel 6 and 17. You can also read that in First Chronicles 15 and 25. So let me ask one more time. Hey, do we have a brother or soldier that can scribe? Do we have a brother or soldier that can scribe? We just read Second Chronicles uh verses 1 through 4. See if anybody could jump on that. All right, all praise. Okay, all praise to the Most High. All right, so Verse 5. Moreover, the brazen altar that Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, had made, he put before the tabernacle of the Lord. And Solomon and the congregation sought unto it. And Solomon went up thither to the brazen altar before the Lord, which was at the tabernacle of the congregation, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings upon it. In that night did God appear unto Solomon, and said unto him, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said unto God, Thou hast showed great mercy unto David my father, and hast made me to reign in his stead. Now, O Lord God, let thy promise unto David my father be established, for thou hast made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Okay, so now, um, when we read this, let's go back to First Kings. I'm not going to jump back and forth through the whole reading, but just to kind of give you a little understanding of where we are. Let's go back to First Kings chapter 3. First Kings chapter 3 and verse 5. Okay. All right. And it says, In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And God said, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept him, and thou hast kept for him his great kindness, this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made me, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or to come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? Okay. And when verse 10 says, And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. So when we go back and you read, it gives a little more detail. All right. So that's what I wanted to bring out there, that when we're reading between the Kings and Chronicles, you want to go try to find that history and line it up so that you can get the details of what's going on. You know, whether it be with King Solomon, King David, and so on. All right. Precept upon precept. All right. So now let's go back. First Kings, I'm sorry, Second Chronicles chapter 1, verse 8. Second Chronicles chapter 1 and verse 8. And Solomon said unto God, Thou hast showed great mercy unto David my father, and hast made me to reign in his stead. Now, O Lord God, let thy promise unto David my father be established. For thou hast made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. That's what we just read in First Kings 3. Verse 10. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this thy people that is so great? And God said to Solomon, because this was in thine heart, and thou hast not asked for riches, wealth, or honor, nor for the life of thine enemies, neither yet hast asked long life, but hast asked wisdom and knowledge for thyself, that thou mayest judge my people, over whom I have made thee king. Wisdom and knowledge is granted unto thee, and I will give thee riches and wealth and honor, such as none of the kings have had that have been before thee, neither shall the any after thee have the like. Then Solomon came from his journey to the high place that was at Gibeon to Jerusalem. for before the tabernacle of the congregation, and reigned over Israel. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, which he had placed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver and gold at Jerusalem, as plenteous as stones, and cedars he made as the sycamore trees that are in the valley for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn, and king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And they fetched up and brought forth out of Egypt a chariot for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. And so they bought out horses for the kings, for all kings of the Hittites, for the kings of Syria by their means. Okay. So again, if you go back and you read in First Kings, man, First Kings chapter 3, you're gonna line up what we just read in Second Chronicles 1. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So now let's go to Second Chronicles chapter 2, verse 1. It says, and Solomon determined to build an house for the name of the Lord, an house for his kingdom. And Solomon told out 70,000 men to bear burdens, 80,000 to hew in the mountain, and 3,600 to oversee them. So now Solomon was determined to build a house for the Lord. Where did Solomon get the understanding? Where did Solomon get the vision? All right. Let's go back to First Chronicles 28. We You just read over this, I believe, yesterday. All right. I'm not gonna read a lot of them, I'm just gonna touch it to give understanding that King David gave this understanding to King Solomon. Let's go to First Chronicles chapter 28 and verse 9. Okay. It says, this First Chronicles chapter 28, verse 9. And thou, Solomon, my son, know thou the God of thy father, and serve him with a perfect heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches all hearts and understandeth all the imagination of the thoughts. If thou seek him, he will be found of thee. But if thou forsake him, he will cast thee off. Take heed now, for the Lord hath chosen thee to build an house for the sanctuary. Be strong and do it. Then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch and of the houses thereof, and of the treasuries thereof, and of the upper chambers thereof, and of the inner parlors thereof, and of the place of the mercy seat. And when you go on down, it shows you all the things that Solomon was supposed to build. Okay, David was showing him this. All right. So now let's go back and pick up at Second Chronicles chapter 2 and verse 3. And Solomon sent to Hiram, king of Tyre, saying, as thou didst deal with David my father, and didst send him cedars to build him an house to dwell therein, even so deal with me. Behold, I build an house to the name of the Lord my God, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense for the continual showbread, and for the burnt offerings, morning and evening, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feast of the Lord God, our God. This is an ordinance forever to Israel. So Solomon was going through this. He's going to build this house and burn sweet incense and continual showbread and burn offerings morning and evening. So where's he getting that from? Let's go back to Numbers chapter 28. The book of Numbers chapter 28. All right. Numbers 28. And we're going to start at verse I'm gonna read 1 through 4, and then we just jump. All right. So this is Numbers chapter 28, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me, shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season. And thou shalt say unto them, This is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord. 2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering. 1 lamb shalt thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shalt thou offer at even. Okay, so that's the morning and the evening sacrifice. Let's jump down to verse 9. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, 2 tenths deals of flour for a meat offering mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. Okay, so you had your daily offerings. Now it's going into the Sabbath offering. Verse 11. In the beginning of your months, you shall offer burnt offerings unto the Lord. All right. So now that's going into what? The new moon. All right. As consequently, we got the new moon coming up. Right. All right. Let's jump down. Uh, verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord. And in the 15th day, now when we read in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord, and then it goes in, and then the 15th day of this month is a feast. All right, let's make sure we have understanding, because that 14th day is what? What does that 14th day represent? Let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23. And it reads, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even. Okay, at evening. So the evening time, right? Sun going down. All right, is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, because we know that the day uh, is from what? Even to even. So at the evening of the 14th day, which is the beginning of the 15th day. All right. So when we go back to Numbers and read it, let's read that again in chapter 28, verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. I wanted to go back there and show you, because if any of you um, didn't know, you might, the way it's written, you might think that's 2 different days. It's not 2 different days. 14th day at even, which is the beginning of the 15th day. All right. Let's jump down to verse. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We got 14, 15. Okay. Okay, verse 26. Also in the day of the first fruits, when you bring a new meat offering unto the Lord, after your 7 weeks be out. Okay, 7 weeks, right? Ye shall do no servile work, but ye shall offer burnt offering of a sweet savor unto the Lord. 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year. Okay, so these are the different feasts of the Lord. So when we go back and we read in Second Chronicles 2 and 4, when Solomon is talking about building the house of the Lord to make sacrifices, let's read it again in verse 4. It says, Behold, I will build an house to the name of the Lord my God, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continuous showbread, and for the burnt offering, morning and evening. Okay, the burnt offerings, morning and evening. That's why we went back to Numbers 28 to show that. On the Sabbath plural. That's why we were reading the different Sabbaths, right? And on the new moons, and on the solemn feast of the Lord our God. This is an ordinance forever to Israel. And that's why we're doing it here in the land of our captivity, according to what Judges 5 and 11. We are rehearsing the righteous acts. Okay. So let's read on, verse 5. And the house which I build is great, for great is our God above all gods. But who is able to build him an house, seeing the heaven and heaven of heavens cannot contain him? Who am I then that I should build him an house, save only to burn sacrifice before him? Send me now, therefore, a man cunning to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in iron, and in purple, and crimson, and blue, that can skill to grave with the cunning men that are with me in Judah and in Jerusalem, whom David my father did provide. Send me also cedar trees, fir trees, and algum trees out of Lebanon. For I know that thy servants can skill to cut timber in Lebanon. And behold, my servants shall be with thy servants, even to prepare me timber in abundance. For the house which I am about to build shall be wonderful, great. And behold, I will give to thy servants, the hewers, 20,000 measures of beaten wheat, and 20,000 measures of barley, and 20,000 baths of wine, and 20,000 baths of oil. And Hiram, the king of Tyre, answered in writing, which he sent to Solomon, because the Lord hath loved his people, he hath made thee king over them. Hiram said, moreover, blessed be the Lord God of Israel, that made heaven and earth, who hath given to David the king a wise son, endued with prudence and understanding, that might build an house for the Lord, and an house for his kingdom. And now I have sent a cunning man endued with understanding of Hiram my father's. Now, I'm going to show y'all something. We're going to read verse 14, and then we're going to go back and read it in Kings. All right. We're going to read verse 14 first. All right. The son of a woman, the daughters of Dan, and his father was a man of Tyre, skillful to work in gold and in silver, in brass, in iron, in stone, and in timber, in purple and blue, and in fine linen, and in crimson. Also to grave any manner of graving, and to find out every device which shall be put to him with thy cunning men, and with the cunning men of my Lord David thy father. All right, so now we're going to go back to First Kings 7. We're going to read the same thing, the same history in First Kings chapter 7. All right, so let's go there. While my computer ain't staying. Okay. All right, First Kings chapter 7. All right, so let's read First Kings chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all, all, all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. So now, when we read in First Kings 7, it says, he was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali. His father was a man of Tyre. Okay, so his mother was of the tribe of Naphtali. When we read it in chapter Second Chronicles chapter 2 verse 14, it says the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan. So now it says the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan, But we read, no, he was of the tribe, she was of the tribe of Naphtali. He being the son of the widow that was of the tribe of Naphtali. Okay, so what does that mean? Why does it say in one place Dan and of another place Naphtali? So I'm gonna give you the precepts because unfortunately I'm not at school. I don't have an IT team that can put up the maps. All right, but I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you something. Matter of fact, let me mark this. Should have had it marked already for you so you can see clearly. I'll show y'all something right quick. See if y'all can see this. Now, I'm gonna circle this. Now, if you have your Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, all right, go back to the map index. All right, you go back to the map index, all right, and it is one, two, three, map number 4. All right, so if you got your Zondervan's Bible Compact Dictionary and you got map number 4, it's going to be easier for you to follow. I don't know if you can see where it's marked in orange. That's the city of Dan in the land of Naphtali. All right, the city of Dan in the land of Naphtali. So now let's go to the book of Judges. All right, let's go to the book of Judges, chapter 18. All right, so make sure you note these precepts. Judges chapter 18, and I'm gonna start at verse 26. All right, and it says, "And the children of Dan went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to unto his house. And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priests which he had, and came to Laish unto a people that were quiet and secure. And they smote them with the edge of the sword and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer because it was far from Zidon. And they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth Rahab. And they built a city and dwelt therein. And they called the city, and I'm sorry, and they called the name of the city, they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of their father who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laish at the first. All right. So they went up and took the city, basically. They took the city and they renamed it Dan. Now, let's go to Joshua chapter 19. Joshua, the book of Joshua, chapter 19. Because remember when we read earlier about the land, how the tribes didn't put out the inhabitants of the land, right? We put them to tribute, meaning they had to pay us taxes, but the Lord said we were supposed to put them out completely. So let's go to Joshua chapter 19. And verse 47. And the coast of the children of Dan went out too little for them. Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against Lashem and took it. That's the same. It says Lashem here in Joshua. It said Laish in Judges. Okay, it's the same place. It's the same place. It says um, and the coasts of the children of Dan went out too little for them. Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against the Shem and took it. and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Lashem Dan after the name of their father. So we read in the same history. Okay, so what are we showing? That's just to clear up, that the understanding. If when you read the history in Second Chronicles chapter 2 verse 14, it said the woman was of the daughters of Dan. And then this is talking about Hiram's mother. And then when you read it in First Kings, it says the tribe of Naphtali, because the city of Dan, or that city which was known as Lashem or Laish, was in the land of Naphtali. Okay, so I hope that if you've been reading and paying attention, if you do like I do, you write down questions because you want to know. Hey, I don't understand that. This is also why you got to get your Zondervan's. All right, you got to get your Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary and actually use it, because you'll find out that a lot of your questions will be answered when you start doing references. All right, quick references. All right, so let's go back to Second Chronicles chapter 2 verse 15. Now therefore the wheat and the barley, the oil and the wine, which my Lord has spoken of, let him send unto his servants, and we will cut wood out of Lebanon as much as thou shalt need, and we will bring it to thee in floats by the sea. Now today, those are the large cargo ships or barges. Okay, you see those barges up and down the rivers. You see the large cargo ships in the sea. All right. So again, it says, and we will bring it to thee in floats by sea to Joppa, and thou shalt carry it up to Jerusalem. And Solomon numbered all the strangers that were in the land of Israel, and number and after the numbering wherewith David his father had numbered them, and they were found 150,000 and 3,600. And he set 60,010 of them to bear the burdens, and 60,000 to be hewers in the mountain, and 3,600 overseers to set the people a work. All right. That is what we read also in verse 2. Okay. All right. So 153,600 men, and he divided them up. 70,000 to bear burdens, 80,000 to hew in the mountains, and 3,600 to be overseers or taskmasters. Okay. Let's see something right quick. Let me go. Let's go to First Chronicles chapter 22. First Chronicles chapter 22. We're going to read verses 7 through 9, and then we're going to jump down to 14. All right. All right. So, First Chronicles chapter 22, verse 7. And David said to Solomon, my son, as for me, it was in my mind to build an house unto the name of the Lord my God. But the word of the Lord came to me, saying, thou hast shed blood continually, and hast made great wars. Thou shalt not build an house unto my name, because thou hast shed much blood upon the earth in my sight. Behold, a son shall be born to thee, who shall be a man of rest. Okay, a man of rest. Why? Because his father subdued all the nations, right? Okay, it says, behold, a son shall be born to thee, who shall be a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies round about. All right. So, like when we read in Micah 4 and 10, that this is not our rest. Why is this not our rest? Because our enemies around us continue to afflict us. This is a precept. You can use this as a precept for rest, because that rest is what? Rest from our enemies. All right. It says, for his name shall be Solomon, and I will give him peace and quietness, and I will give peace and quietness unto Israel in his days. All right, so it wasn't just Solomon that was at rest. We were all at rest at that time. All right, let's jump down to verse 14. Now, behold, in my trouble I have prepared for the house of the Lord 100,000 talents of gold, and 1,000 talents of silver, and of brass and iron without weight. For it is in abundance. It is in abundance. Timber also and stone have I prepared, that thou mayest add thereto. Moreover, there are workmen with in abundance, hewers and workers of stone and timber, and all manner of cunning men for every manner of work. Okay, so David said, I even laid up for you workers. All right, so that's what we're reading about in Second Chronicles chapter 2, verse 17 and 18. All right. Okay, so let's go on to Second Chronicles chapter 3. So now when we're reading Second Chronicles chapter 3, there's a mix of First Kings 6 and 7. All right, but First Kings is going to go in a lot more detail. Okay. All right, so Second Chronicles chapter 3, verse 1. Then Solomon began to build the house of the Lord at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where the Lord appeared unto David his father, in the place that David had prepared in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. All right, if y'all remember, we just read that a few days ago in First Chronicles chapter 21. And he began to build the second day of the second month in the fourth year of his reign. Now these are the things wherein Solomon was instructed for the building of the house of God. The length of the cubit, the length by cubits after the first measure was 80 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits. And the porch that was in the front of the house, the length of it was according to the breadth of the house, 20 cubits, and the height was 120. And he overlaid it within with pure gold. So you know that thing was bad. Pure gold. Okay. And remember, where did he get this? We read that earlier from his father. All right. From David, his father. All right. Now, verse 5. And the greater house he sealed with fir tree, which he overlaid with fine gold, and set thereon palm trees and chains. And he garnished the house with precious stones for beauty. And the gold was gold of Parvaim, and overlaid also the house, the beams, the posts, the walls thereof, and the doors thereof with gold. You know that thing was bad. Even the doors, and that's some real gold. All right. That thing ain't what we got now. The knockoff 14K what do they call it, gold. It ain't real gold. It ain't gold through and through. I forget what they call it because I don't be wearing that jewelry like that much anymore. Um, Engraved cherubims on the walls. Okay, engraved cherubims on the walls. I want to deal with that just for a minute. It says he graved cherubims on the wall. Let's go back to First Kings 6:29. All right, First Kings chapter 6, verse 29. And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without. Okay, so you have our unlearned Christian brothers and sisters, and some that dally in other doctrines. They say you can't have images, right? You can't have images. That's not what the Bible says. And when they say that, let's go to what they're referring to. Exodus 20. Let's go to Exodus 20. All right. Exodus chapter 20 and we'll start at 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 27. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 27 and read verse 15. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman. So then are you saying Solomon made a mistake in having these images carved into the walls? Let's read on. And put it in a secret place. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen. And put it in a secret place. Now, any of you that have a house or an apartment you live in and have walls, are your walls in a secret place? Can you not see your walls? Let's get some understanding of what that means. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8. I got walls in my house. Matter of fact, you're looking at a wall that has the image of Christ and the 12 tribes. Okay? I'm not bowing down and worshiping the image of Christ, nor the 12 tribes. And guess what? Because you can see it clearly when you enter into my home, it's not hidden. All right? It's not hidden. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, and verse 4. And it reads, And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then he said unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north. And behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far from my sanctuary? But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court. And when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. So he said there was a hole in the wall. Verse 8. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I dig in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things, abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. Okay. I'm gonna read on. Verse 11. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them Jaazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Do in the dark. Okay. Every man in the chambers of his imagery. For they say, The Lord seeth us not. The Lord hath forsaken the earth. Okay. So he had to go into a wall and then went into chambers, and there they are in the dark doing what? Practicing idolatry. So let's go back and read that again. Deuteronomy 27 and verse 15. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and put it in a secret place. That's what we were just reading about. Put it in a secret place, and all the people shall answer and say, Amen. So now let's go back to Second Chronicles chapter 3, verse 7. And it says, he overlaid also the house and the beams, the posts and the walls thereof, and the doors thereof with gold, and engraved cherubims on the walls. Now, do you think Solomon was going around and bowing down to the cherubims and the other images that were made? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's get Hosea chapter 10 and verse 1. All right. Hosea chapter 10 and verse 1. It says, Israel is an empty vine. He bringeth forth fruit unto himself. According to the multitude of his fruit, he hath increased the altars. According to the goodness of his land, they have made goodly images. Goodly images. So we can have images. It says goodly images. What are those goodly images? Well, we're reading about them right now. All right, we're reading about them right now in the building of the house of the Lord. All right. So now let's move on. Let's move forward. All right. Verse 8. Second Chronicles chapter 3 and verse 8. And he made the most holy house, the length whereof was according to the breadth of the house, 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits. And he overlaid it with fine gold, amounting to 600 talents. And the weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold. And he overlaid the upper chambers with gold. And in the midst of the holy house, of the most holy house, he made two cherubims of image work and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubims were 20 cubits long. One wing of one cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house. And the other wing was likewise 5 cubits, reaching to the wing of the other cherub. And the one wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house. And the other wing was 5 cubits also, joining to the wing of the other cherub. And the wings of these cherubims spread themselves forth 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet, and their faces were inward. And he made the veil of blue and purple and crimson and fine linen and wrought cherubims thereon. And he made before the house 2 pillars of 30 and 5 cubits high, and the chapiter that was on the top of each of them was 5 cubits. And he made chains as in the oracle, and put them on the heads of the pillars. And he made 100 pomegranates and put them on the chains. And he reared up the pillars before the temple, one on the right hand and the other on the left. And he called the name of the one that was on the right hand Jachin, and the name of that on the left Boaz. Okay, that you read in First Kings chapter 7 and verse 21. All right, so let's go into Second Chronicles chapter 4 and verse 1. All right. Let's see what time it is. Okay. Moreover, he made an altar of brass, 20 cubits, the length thereof, and 20 cubits, the breadth thereof, 10 cubits, the height thereof. Also, he made a molten sea of 10 cubits from brim to brim, round in compass, and 5 cubits, the height thereof, and a line of 30 cubits did compass it round about. And under it was the similitude of oxen, which did compass it round about, 10 in a cubit, comprising the sea round about. 2 rows of oxen were cast when it was cast. It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 looking toward the north, and 3 looking toward the west, and 3 looking toward the south, and 3 looking toward the east. And the sea was set above them, and all their hinder parts were inward, and the thickness of it was an handbreadth, and the brim of it like the work of the brim of a cup, with flowers of lilies, and it received and held 3,000 baths. He made also 10 lavers, and put 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left, to wash in them. Such as things they offered for the burnt offerings, they washed in them. But the sea was for the priest to wash in. And he made 10 candlesticks of gold according to their form, and set them in the temple, 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left. He made also 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left. He made 100 basins of gold. Furthermore, he made the court of the priests and the great court and the doors of the court, and overlaid the doors of them with brass. And he set the sea on the right side of the east end over against the south. And Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the basins. And Hiram finished the work that he was to make for King Solomon for the house of God, to wit, the 2 pillars and the pommels and the chapiters, which were on top of the 2 pillars, Wait a minute, just lost some place. And the 2 wreaths to cover the pommels of the chapiters, which were on the top of the pillars, and 400 pomegranates on the 2 wreaths, 2 rows of pomegranates on each wreath to cover the 2 pommels of the chapiters which were upon the pillars. He made also bases and lavers, made he upon the bases, 1 seat and 12 oxen under it, the pots also, and the shovels, and the flesh hooks, and all their instruments did Hiram his father make to King Solomon. Make to King Solomon for the house of the Lord of bright brass. Okay. In the plain of Jordan did the king cast them in the clay between the ground. All right, verse 17. In the plain of Jordan did he cast them in the clay ground between Succoth and Zeredath. Thus Solomon made all the vessels in great abundance, for the weight of the brass could not be found out. And Solomon made all the vessels that were for the house of God, the golden altar also, and the tables whereon the shewbread was set. Moreover, the candlesticks with their lamps, that they should burn after the manner before the oracle of pure gold, and the flowers, and the lamps, and the tongs made he of gold, and that perfect gold, and the snuffers, and the basins, and the spoons, and the censers, and pure gold, and the entry of the house, the inner doors thereof, for the most holy place, and the doors of the house of the temple were of gold. Okay. All praises to the Most High. So that place was bad. And I'm gonna tell you, any of you that have ever been in the Catholic Church, and I spent a short time there as I went to uh, Catholic school for a couple of years, and some of you brothers and sisters that may have grown up and were good athletes, a lot of times the Catholic schools will pull you out of public school to come and be glorified slaves for them. But nonetheless, when you read about the snuffers and the candlesticks and all of that, you would see that when you went to mass in the Catholic Church, if anybody can bear witness to that. But so anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Those are our 4 chapters for today. Again, when you link up First Kings chapter 3 through chapter 7, you're matching up what we just read today in greater detail. What you'll read in Kings with concerning the building of the house, but the same thing that we just read in Second Chronicles chapters 1 through 4. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom, family. Hey, make sure y'all prepare for the Sabbath and the new moon. Okay, the new moon begins at sundown on the Sabbath. All right, so make your preparations. Also, I believe the Esau messes with the time this week. All right. So what is it? Fall back. I guess we're gonna is it do we gain an hour? I don't know. I always get confused with that stuff. But Esau messing with the time this week. All right. Remember, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, we got class. Donate and join the Boosters Club. Visit www.israelunite.org. And with that, I say shalom, family. Most High in Christ bless you all.